Well, we are now 2 weeks into Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and despite some gains, it's been anything but a cakewalk for Putin's army. CIA Director William Burns said yesterday that Russian losses have been, quote, far in excess of what Putin and his military leaders had anticipated. Joining me now for the latest on the current situation on the ground in Ukraine is freelance war correspondent Chuck Holton. Chuck, thanks so much for joining us and welcome back to the program.
Yeah, happy to be here, Tony.
So you are now in Kiev. Give us the latest of what you're seeing there in the capital city.
That's right. It's really surprising. I have to say that when the invasion first happened, I figured that Russian tanks would be rolling through the streets of Kiev within 48 hours. And I was completely wrong about that. The Ukrainians have done an amazing job at stopping the Russian advance. And there are no Russian troops within 25 kilometers of Kiev at this point. Now, they are working to try and surround the city, as they have done with Mariupol and Kharkiv and several other cities across the country. But that just goes to show that they have actually failed to take any major cities in this country larger than 300,000 people. The only city they've taken is Kherson, and that city is still in play, according to the Ukrainians. So we went out today to much closer to the front lines to Irpin and Bucha, where there are people just desperately trying to flee. They had declared a green corridor, they said, not necessarily a ceasefire, but they had said they would let people try to get away. And that only lasted for a few hours. Several thousand people were able to come out on foot and cross that broken down bridge that got hit with an airstrike over the river Irpin. But many people that are coming across are wounded, are sick, and are aged and elderly, because those are the only people left over there at this point. And the Russians opened fire on those people this afternoon and killed 2 and wounded several others in that renewed fighting.
In the capital city, what is the situation like? Have most of the civilians left the city?
Yeah, I would say probably 95% of the people have left. Again, the only people that are still here are people who don't have the wherewithal to leave, or people who are planning to stay and fight. So that when you look out the window today and the sun was out, there are elderly people out walking their dogs. There are soldiers, and that's about the only 2 types of people that you see right now. But the grocery stores, some of them are open. There are smaller lines in the gas stations. So they're actually they're able to continue living here. The gas is on, the light is on. So life is going on here in Kiev. And although we hear those air raid sirens on a daily basis, sometimes an hourly basis, really all they can put in here is long-range rockets from the far extent of their range, which makes them far less accurate. And that's one of the reasons why civilian areas are being hit so often.
What will Russia need to do to take the capital city? How bad will the bombardment have to be to overcome the stiff resistance?
They'll have to flatten this city. There won't be anything left of Kiev if they actually take it. As it stands right now, I believe that this will, if they ever take Kiev, it will take either a political solution, or they will actually have to destroy the city completely, because there are massive blockades on every road. There are checkpoints, there are bunkers, everything is fortified. The people here have had a lot of time to dig in, and they are ready. And it would be like the siege of Stalingrad if the Russians actually think they're going to take this city by force.
Chuck Holton, earlier I played the clip of President Zelensky addressing the House of Commons yesterday with a Churchillian type message of, we'll fight them in the sea, we'll fight them in the air. Is that reflective of the Ukrainian people?
Oh, absolutely. That's what they're doing. They are fighting them everywhere, and you don't see fear in their eyes. The civilians that are fleeing from Bucha are understandably sad about leaving their families and their homes behind. But the men who are out there armed and ready, they have a grim-faced determination, and they are not going to give this thing up without a really stiff fight. That's one of the reasons I believe why the Russians have lost so many. The Ukrainians have actually picked up over 100 tanks. They've lost about 250, but they've captured 365 Russian tanks. So they're actually ahead on tanks by over 100 at this point. And the tanks they're capturing are better tanks than the ones they're losing. So they're essentially upgrading their military through the Russians.
We have heard from President Zelensky inviting others to come and join the effort there in Ukraine. Have you encountered any Americans who were there on the ground assisting the Ukrainians?
We have, as a matter of fact, I work with the Free Burma Rangers in Syria and elsewhere, and there's a team of those guys that we've worked with that are here under a different banner, helping out with medical needs and just whatever they can do to help. And I have to say, I'm just getting inundated by people in the States who want to come over and do something to help. And what I'm telling them is go to Poland, go to some of these European countries, because there are literally millions of Ukrainians there now who had to pick up and leave at a moment's notice and don't have anything to rely on over there except the generosity of the people in those countries. So there's so much need out there right now, and that's where you can be the most help, I believe.
So just to summarize that, Chuck, what back here in the States, Americans who are here that are deeply concerned about what they see happening, even more so as we're going to talk a little bit about the religious freedom that has flourished there in Ukraine, which I think in part is why Vladimir Putin moved on his neighboring country. What can Christians and believers here in America do to be supportive and helpful for their brothers and sisters there in Ukraine?
Well, praying is always the most you can do. But if you want to do something else besides that, you can give to some of these organizations that are out there helping. I know CBN's Operation Blessing is making a big push to help the refugees that are flooding into Europe and to help people here in Ukraine. Orphans Promise is working here very hard. And there are several other organizations, like I said, that I've seen working here on the ground that are doing very good work, and they will make very good use of whatever funds get donated.
What is the sense right now on the ground from a standpoint of the United States as a country? Do the Ukrainians feel as if America is standing with them or standing on the side as simply a spectator?
Well, they feel like America is sort of feckless and wimpy in its response. I have to say, we were out today in European, again, rescuing people, and there were explosions going off in the distance. And some of the few people we spoke to who spoke English said that. Actually, one of them was a PM here in the parliament here in Ukraine. And he said, look, if you don't want to put boots on the ground, we understand that, but give us the tools that we need to win this thing, and we will win it. See, they understand that this is not a war between Ukraine and Russia. This is a war between Russia and the West, and Ukraine is the one doing the fighting for it. And so they want to be accepted into the Western nations, the Western political institutions, and they want help from those institutions right now in order to defeat the Russians. And if they get that help, I believe they can defeat the Russians here, and it will be an absolutely crippling blow to Vladimir Putin.
Yes, it will, and it'll send a message to tyrants the world over. Chuck Holton, thanks so much for joining us. Stay safe. We'll continue to pray for you and the safety of the Ukrainian people.
Thank you very much.